For the fabric version, you will need a main panel, a strap, and a pocket panel. Now the main panel is cut one from exterior and one from lining, and the strap is also cut one exterior, one lining. You can also cut it two exterior as well, and depending on your preference. Okay, but here I have used one exterior and one lining, and then there's this pocket panel. I have fused woven interfacing to the wrong side of the strap pieces and the pocket panel. Now if you would like to display a particular design on the pocket piece, as in this fabric version, okay, what you can do is cut your pocket panel in such a way that your the print that you would like to be displayed in this place, okay, align it in the center like I've done over here. Alright, and now for the main panels, there is a separate interfacing piece provided. Okay, so this pattern piece is used to cut the woven interfacing, and then you place it in the on the wrong side, centered, wrong side of the main panel and centered, fuse it. Okay, but now if you're using a really lightweight fabric, what you can do is you can fuse the woven interfacing on the wrong side of the main panel, and then use the main panel interfacing pattern piece, place it on the wrong side, and then trace around it to get the stitch line. Here I've used the main panel interfacing pattern piece and traced around, placed it on the wrong side of the main panel and traced around it. So this will give me the stitch line. Now apart from these cut pieces, you will also need a swivel clasp, which is 1 inch hard, 1 inch or about 3¼ inch width. Okay, or you can actually use a keychain ring. And you will also need snap buttons and a plier that is used to set the snap buttons. Starting with the strap, place the two strap pieces right sides together and clip in place. Okay, clip them together and take it to your machine and stitch around the strap, leaving the bottom edge open, okay, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you'll start from here, go around the strap and stop here, back stitching at the start and stop, leave this edge open so as to turn the strap right side out after we stitch. I've clipped the curves all around. You can even trim the seam allowance if you like, and then turn the strap right side out. It helps if you have a small turning tool. You can use a hemostat or any other turning tool that you normally use. Okay, once you've got your strap turned right side out, give it a good press and then top stitch all around the strap piece using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, I've top stitched all around the edge of the strap. Set it aside. This is the pocket panel, the short edge of the pocket panel. Now place the pocket panel, fold it in half such that the short edges are together, okay, and then stitch the top straight edge. I've stitched the straight edge of the pocket panel. Now you've got to press it open. You can finger press or use an iron. I'm just using a small pressing tool that I have, and then turn it right side out. Okay. After turning the pocket panel right side out, align the seam towards the center, okay, and then check to make sure that your little design is actually in the center, and then give it a good press. After pressing, top stitch this top folded edge. Just make sure that the seam is going in the center. I have stitched along the top folded edge of the pocket panel. My seam is aligned to the center at the back. The seam is pressed open. It lays nice and flat. Okay, and the little design is actually centered. Now I'm going to set it aside and take the two main panel pattern pieces. So I'm going to be placing the main panels right sides together and clip them. Okay, and what you've got to do is stitch the bottom straight edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have stitched the bottom straight edge using a 1/4 of a seam allowance. Okay, so now what you've got to do is open up the main panels, okay, and then place it such that your lining panel is on top. Take your pocket panel and align the bottom edge. This is the unstitched edge, this is the top stitch edge. Align the bottom edge exactly along that folded stitch line. Now fold the main panel back and clip in place. Okay. Now you'll have to take it to the machine and stitch along the stitch line. Okay, do not stitch down here. Alright, you just have to stitch all around and leave an opening at the top edge to turn the main panel right side out. Now if you have interfaced your the whole main panel, then you can stitch along the drawn line. If you have used fused woven interfacing, cut according to the main panel interfacing, then stitch along the edge of the interfacing. Okay, so you either stitch along the edge of the interfacing, do not stitch this part and leave an opening at the top, or stitch along the drawn line, don't stitch in between these two lines and leave an opening at the top. Okay, as you can see, I've stitched all around, left an opening at the top, again started stitching, and stopped over here. I like to back stitch at start and stop. Okay, and I also like to stitch towards the edge of the opening. Okay, now trim all around. If you have pinking shears, use them, quite handy. Okay, I don't trim this edge of the opening. I like to make some snips at the curves. Just make sure that you don't cut the stitching line. Okay, so again trimming the other edge. And snipping into the corners and the curves. Okay, now turn the pouch through the opening. Okay, turn the pouch right side out through the opening. I'm just using a little pointer tool to get my edges nice and sharp. And once this is done, you will notice that a small hole has been formed. Okay, now this is a small size pouch. What I'll do is I'm going to be inserting a little sanitizer bottle inside and checking if the nozzle fits in through the hole. Okay, if it looks like it's a little big for the nozzle, so now what I'm going to do is, while top stitching, I have to top stitch around this. When I'm top stitching, I'm going to start a little to the right, okay, and then go all around so that the size of the hole is reduced a little, and then the bottle will fit perfectly. Okay, so before top stitching, always check if the nozzle fits inside. If it's a little large, you can always adjust the size of the hole while top stitching. So now got all my edges nice and straight. Push the seam in the opening towards the inside. Okay, and give this a good press. Okay, I've given this main panel a good press. My corners have all been turned out properly. Now take your strap piece and push it in through the opening into the main panel. Make sure that it is nice and centered and it is sitting a nice 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch inside the main panel. Okay, check that it is nice and straight and then clip it in place. Okay, now it's time to stitch around the edge of the main panel. So like we've tested earlier, insert the nozzle of the bottle, check how loose or tight the opening is, and then decide where to start your stitching and stop your stitching so that the bottle, the nozzle of the bottle fits properly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take it to the machine, start stitching from the left edge of the hole all the way around and through the top edge. That will close the opening and it will hold the strap in place, and go all the way down, come back and stop at the right edge of the hole at the bottom. Make sure that you backstitch at the start and stop. Okay, I've top stitched all around the edge and my strap is nice and firmly in place. Okay, it's time to add the hardware. I'm using a swivel clasp, inserting it through the strap, and I'm going to be fixing it approximately about 1 inch from the straight edge. Okay, and I'll clip it in place. I'll have to stitch down the strap at this point. Make sure that it's nice and straight. Okay, and centered. Take it to the machine and stitch the strap so that the hardware is in place. Okay, I've just stitched the strap such that the swivel clasp is not going to move from here. Okay, and now the last step is to add the snap buttons. Okay, so again place the bottle. See, now it's the nozzle sits perfectly inside the bottle. Okay, I'm going to be marking the position of the snap button again using my tool. Okay, stiletto tool, just making sure that it is in the center. Okay, I'm poking through the strap as well as the pocket panel. Okay, now let's make it a little larger so that the snap can go in easily. Okay, alright, placing the cap. And take the male portion and fix it in. Use the tool. Okay. Use the tool and press in place. And similarly, take the cap portion. Taking the female part of the snap button and fixing it in place. Okay, so there you have it. Fabric version of the Ava Sanitizer Pouch.